Grocery employees are always one step ahead, not because they're smarter, but because they see delivery reports, ordering screens, and quiet price shifts before you ever grab a cart. Before clocking out, they buy specific items first. These 12 foods aren't random, they're signals. Once you know what they're grabbing and why, you'll never shop the same way again. Number one is a habit so simple most people dismiss it, and that's exactly why it costs them year after year. Let's count down from 12. Number 12, ground beef. Most people assume the best time to buy beef is the weekend. More shoppers, more promotions, more competition. That's the logic. It's wrong. Grocery store employees almost never buy their beef on weekends. They buy it Tuesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, during the quiet hours when no one else is watching the meat case. Here's why. Markdown stickers applied to quality cuts approaching their sell-by date tend to appear in the morning or early afternoon when staff are rotating product and pulling older trays. By Saturday evening, those trays are gone. What's left at the end of a busy weekend isn't the deal. It's what nobody else wanted. But timing is only part of it. The bigger reason employees track beef carefully is structural, and it doesn't fix itself quickly. According to the USDA, the U.S. cattle herd is currently at one of its lowest points in decades. Years of drought, rising feed costs, and ranchers reducing herd sizes rather than absorbing losses have created a supply squeeze that takes years, not months, to unwind. Add processing costs, labor, and long-distance transportation, and every pound on that shelf is carrying more accumulated pressure than most shoppers realize. Ground beef now sits around $6 to $7 per pound at most U.S. grocery stores. Ribeye runs 14 to 18, higher in larger cities or for premium cuts. When an employee spots a quality cut with a markdown sticker, they don't plan to come back for it. They take it immediately because by the time they finish shopping, it's already in someone else's cart. The practical move. Check the meat case midweek during quieter hours. Watch for freshly applied stickers. Check the packaging date. When you find a good price, divide larger packs into meal-sized portions. Label with the purchase date and freeze right away. Both ground beef and ribeye hold quality well for several months when stored properly. One well-timed purchase won't transform your budget on its own, but consistently avoiding the premium weekend price on beef week after week adds up faster than most people expect. Number 11, rotisserie chicken. Every evening as the last shoppers head toward the exits, a quiet scene plays out near the hot food counter. A few employees finishing their shifts make one stop before the parking lot. They check the warming case, see how many rotisserie chickens are left, and add one to their cart. Not because they can't get chicken elsewhere, but because they know something most shoppers have never been told. Rotisserie chickens aren't priced to make the store money. In retail, they're called loss leaders, sold at or near cost to bring customers through the door, with everything else in the cart generating the margin. That's why major chains have held the price so stable for so long. Costco around $4.99, Walmart between $5.97 and $7.97. These prices exist to drive foot traffic, not profit on the chicken itself, which makes it one of the most deliberately underpriced products in the entire store. But here's what most people miss. At high-volume locations, hundreds of these chickens sell in a single day. They sell out, especially on weekends, especially early evening. An employee walking up at 7:30 on a Saturday already knows the case might be empty, so they stop by before they clock out. And one rotisserie chicken used well is several meals. Hot the first evening, pulled meat for tacos, sandwiches, or grain bowls the next day. The carcass simmered with water and vegetables becomes homemade broth at almost zero additional cost. Employees understand that value completely. They've watched those chickens move all day. Number 10, eggs. The egg display doesn't have to look empty to signal that something is shifting. All it takes is one number moving on a price tag. Eggs are one of the items grocery workers check nearly every single day. Not because something dramatic is always happening, but because when it does, the timeline is shorter than most people expect. A dozen conventional eggs might be $3 to $4 today. A supply disruption can move that number noticeably within days, not weeks. Organic and cage-free varieties already on a constrained supply pipeline feel the pressure first and recover last. The reason is structural. When avian influenza moves through major poultry operations, millions of laying hens can be removed from production in a very short window. The USDA egg market report tracks this closely, and the pattern is consistent. The gap between stable pricing and significantly higher pricing can close much faster than most consumers expect. Employees watch more than the display. They track incoming carton volumes, how fast shoppers are clearing the case, and the new price tags staged and ready to be applied. Some evenings, an employee quietly adds one or two cartons to their cart before clocking out. Not to stockpile, but because the price they saw this morning may look different by midweek. Here's the mistake to avoid. Eggs need refrigeration and have a real expiration date. Buying far more than your household will use before that date doesn't protect you from a price increase. It just moves the loss from your wallet to your trash. The smarter move. 2 to 3 weeks worth. Original carton back of the refrigerator, not the door, where temperature shifts every time you open it. When grocery workers describe eggs, they call them an early warning signal. When egg prices move, something is usually changing further back in the supply chain, and it rarely resolves quickly. Number 9, frozen chicken. If you see an employee adding 2 large bags of frozen chicken to their cart near the end of a shift, it almost never has anything to do with dinner planning. More likely, a sale is expiring tonight. A shipment came in lighter than scheduled, or they checked the inventory screen and those bags may not be at this price much longer. Frozen chicken isn't a prestigious buy. That's exactly why employees rely on it. Unlike beef, which can swing dramatically under supply pressure, chicken has remained one of the more stable and affordable proteins. Number 8, butter. Butter doesn't spike, it drifts. That slow, nearly invisible upward movement is exactly what makes it one of the most consistently mismanaged grocery items for people not watching the right signals. An employee adding a few boxes of butter to their cart before clocking out usually isn't planning to bake this weekend. They spotted a short-term sale, or they know from the ordering screen that the next delivery is coming in at a higher cost. Number 7, coffee. The first sign that something is changing with coffee almost never shows up on the sales floor. It shows up on a screen in the back of the store. An employee reviewing the ordering system notices a familiar dark roast SKU, one that's moved consistently for years, has changed status. The field now reads temporarily unavailable, no restock date. On the floor, everything looks normal. Bags facing outward, labels familiar, no indication of anything unusual. But behind that door, the employee already knows the sequence that follows. One roast goes unavailable, then the whole bean version. Then the standard size gets quietly replaced by a smaller bag at nearly the same price. And eventually the cost of everything in that section shifts upward and stays there. Number 6, pure honey. There's a specific warning sign employees recognize with honey. It has nothing to do with bees, seasons, or the price tag itself. It's a bottle size. The familiar 24 Oz jar disappears. In its place, a 12 Oz jar sits in the exact same position at nearly the same price. To a shopper moving through at normal speed, it barely registers. To an employee tracking inventory, the message is immediate. Volume is shrinking while the price holds, and the larger format is no longer arriving. You're paying essentially the same amount. Number 5, extra virgin olive oil. The warning sign with olive oil doesn't show up on the shelf. It shows up in a field on an ordering screen. Last week, the allocation for a standard 1L bottle was 8 cases. This week, quietly reduced to 4. The shelf still looks completely full, but the employee reading the delivery schedule already knows what that number means. The window for good pricing is closing, and the shelf won't show it until it already has. The supply pressures are structural. Spain, Italy, and Portugal, the core producing regions globally, have experienced multi-year drought cycles that have dramatically cut olive harvests. Number 4, canned salmon. The first warning sign for canned salmon isn't an empty shelf. It isn't a price jump. It isn't any notice posted anywhere in the store. It's silence on a promotional schedule. One week, the flyer carries a multi-buy promotion on a popular 14.75-ounce can of wild Alaska salmon. The following week, that promotion simply isn't there. No replacement, no explanation. The shelf still looks full. But for an employee reviewing the ordering system, the signal is already clear. The large can is no longer available to order. The shelf position quietly fills with a smaller can or a private label alternative at a price that looks similar until you check the per ounce cost and realize you're getting meaningfully less fish for the same money. Number 3, block cheese. If grocery store employees could choose any form of cheese for their own household, what would they actually pick? Almost none of them would say shredded. They'd take the block every time. Pre-shredded looks practical. Already in the right form, no grater needed. But people who spend time around grocery pricing know something the shelf label doesn't show. Pre-shredded cheese consistently costs more per ounce than the equivalent block. The convenience premium compounds across every purchase. There's also something inside the bag the block doesn't have. To prevent clumping during storage, manufacturers coat the shreds with an anti-caking agent, typically cellulose powder. Number 2, imported pasta. The smallest warning sign with imported pasta isn't a gap on the shelf. It isn't an unusual price. It's nothing that would make you stop while shopping. It's a number printed on a label. The familiar 16 Oz package disappears. A 12 Oz package takes its place at a price that looks nearly identical. Most shoppers walk past it assuming they're buying the same product. The brand looks right. The label looks right. Nothing announces that the transition happened weeks ago, but for an employee monitoring the ordering system, this shift was visible long before it reached the shelf. The original SKU is no longer available to order. Number 1, jasmine and basmati rice. There's a habit many grocery store employees maintain at home that most people assume is driven by anxiety. It isn't. Once a month, they buy one bag of jasmine or basmati rice, even when the container at home still has rice in it. Not because there's a shortage, not because prices are in crisis, but because they've internalized something most shoppers never arrive at on their own. Rice shouldn't be bought when you urgently need it. It should be bought while the price is stable, and your preferred variety is still available in the format that actually offers value. These 12 items don't share a price point, a category, or a supply chain. What they share is this: the people who work in grocery stores recognize their value and their vulnerability long before that recognition reaches the sales floor. Not because they have special expertise, but because they spend their working hours reading signals that shoppers are never positioned to see. Incoming order volumes dropping, while shelves still look full. The people who consistently pay less aren't reacting to the shelf after the price has changed. They're paying attention to the signals that come before it. Which of these 12 surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. I'd genuinely like to.